How's it going, everyone? John Connearn here with Chapman Guitars, and this is part 2 of a series of little tips and tricks when using the baritone guitar. If you haven't watched part 1, nip back and watch that video because there are a few tips in that that are going to inform the ones we go over in this. So moving swiftly on, let's go into the next tip. The next tip is to experiment with split coil sounds. Now, split coils are not a baritone specific feature, and you can get them on all sorts of guitars nowadays. But in the context of a baritone guitar, everything in pitch, right, is dead lower. So you're going to need a lot more to cut through, make everything less muddy. And using a split coil feature as a guitarist allows you to have a lot more clarity, definition, and attack to your tone, which is always a good thing. So on this Chapman M01 Modern, I've got a little push-pull here that allows me to split the coils of these two humbuckers. With the push-pull in, it means the tone's going to have a lot more warmth, sometimes muddiness, but you may want that thicker sound in some circumstances. If you pull this out, you'll be able to hear a lot more clarity, pick definition, and all those other words that guitarists use, right? So here's an example of the difference between the two. Moving on to the next tip, this is something we hear all the time as guitar players, but in the context of baritone playing, it's super crucial, and that's to use less gain. Now, as a disclaimer, gain is good. Gain is great, in fact. But oftentimes, especially in the context of a mix, having loads of gain is going to detract from the clarity, punch, and just articulation of what you're playing. And when everything's down-tuned so low, often the case with baritone guitar playing, it's going to be harder to get that articulation and clarity of what you're actually playing across. And similar to the previous point on splitting the coils, using less gain can be another way to achieve this. So here's a quick example of a riff using a bit more gain and then dialing it back to get that articulation and clarity across. And my final tip is to not see this as a normal guitar. Now, that may sound a bit hippie, but bear with me for a second. And what I mean by this is that when you first pick up a baritone guitar, or if you already own one, when you play one, you may encounter things that don't usually happen on a normal tuned guitar, right? So like we talked about in the previous video, with some of the chord voicings being a bit muddy when they're lower down, it may be harder to play things generally because the geography is a bit bigger because of the longer scale length, right? All of these things that can be seen as roadblocks can actually lead to other ways of playing the guitar. And I kind of find that really exciting because you can't go into your usual rut of the things that you play all the time. So use these challenges and things that are kind of in the way, if you see it that way, as a route to play differently. And it can totally bring a new player out of you. It did for me, and all of the examples in these two videos have been from playing the baritone guitar, different versions of it, and the way it can just inspire different stuff. So I hope you found these useful and ultimately got some value out of these videos. If you want to check out this baritone guitar or any other of the baritone guitars that Chapman has to offer, check the links in the description. And if you've got any tips on using the baritone guitar, please put them in the comments below because we'd love to read them, and as a nice bonus, we'll all get better at guitar. That's pretty much it from me. I've been John Connearn. Thanks for watching.